Welcome to day 2 of the ACT Festival of Treasury Transformation. I'm Caroline Stockmann, Chief Executive of the ACT, and we have close to 1,000 delegates at our conference from all around the world, so that's really exciting. We're just 1/3 the way through our packed agenda, and I'm pleased to share with you the live sessions that we've got coming up today on the theme of transforming operations, looking at cash management and treasury management systems. Coming up directly after this is a session on driving treasury development through best practice and state-of-the-art technology with Sarala, which will be followed by harnessing technology to enable data-driven cash forecasting, and then a keynote session on leadership insights, where I'll be talking to Peter Cheese, the Chief Executive of the CIPD and a member of the ACT Advisory Panel, on leadership insights on digital and other transformation in the new world of work. Peter's written a fascinating book on the subject, published just this year, and his research and observations are fascinating. After a short break, we'll then have Powering Treasury with a cost-effective TMS, and then a Treasurer's role in combating cyber risk and fraud. I do hope you can join these sessions live so you can ask questions and have an interactive experience. But if you can't, they will go on demand before the end of each conference day, so you won't miss them. Also, in our on-demand library, you can find more great content, including the findings from our ACT International Treasury Peer Review, supported by Deutsche Bank, which sought views from treasurers around the world on the challenges facing multinational treasury teams in 2021. There's also a session with our top performing students from this year, our prize winners, where they talk through their personal journeys, challenges, and give some hints and tips for other students going through the same experience. Plus, following on from yesterday's final installment in the series, you can find the other 3 sessions on our digital assets program available to view. And now, briefly, for some housekeeping, a few reminders on how to make the most of the virtual platform. You can find all yesterday's sessions on demand now in the Agenda Live and On Demand tab on the left-hand side. All live sessions, as I said, will go on demand after they're shown and will be available to watch until the platform closes in 2 weeks' time. Remember to take part in the ACT Treasury Hunt, which is our event game that can win you up to £200 of Amazon vouchers. And the more you use the platform, the more points you get. So just click on the relevant tab on the left-hand side for how to play. Take time to visit the exhibition hall, where you'll find the profiles of each of our sponsors and our supporters, and where you can also download helpful resources to help you with your treasury and digital transformation. And just a tip, spending your time here gets you Treasury Hunt points. Here you'll also find a profile of the ACT with information on ACT qualifications, learning and training, plus some of our upcoming live events, including the next Deals of the Year awards returning in 2022. The deadline for nominations is next Monday, the 29th of November, so do make sure to enter before it's too late. Post your comments to the discussion forum, where you can engage with fellow attendees with your thoughts and comments on the various topics being discussed. Some questions you may have had on Magnus Falk yesterday, the interview with him, the CIO advisor of Zoom. We ran out of time. There were so many good questions. There's some more responses to the final questions we didn't get time for in the discussion forum. Either there now or will be posted shortly. You can earn Treasury Hunt points too in the discussion forum. Remember also to give us your feedback, really valuable to us, on the surveys tab, where you'll be entered also into a prize draw, giving you the chance to win £100 or equivalent of Amazon gift cards. And finally, if you missed any of yesterday's sessions, again, please go to day 1 agenda, where you'll be able to watch them on demand, as I said, over the next 2 weeks at your leisure. Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors: Arca, Cash Analytics, Cashforce, Copper, Eka, Ion Treasury, Cantox, Kyriba, Miltech FX, NS Knox, OnBrain, Sarala, and Treasury Spring. Without their support, none of this would be possible. So without further ado, Please join me for our first session of the day on driving Treasury development through best practice and state-of-the-art technology. Enjoy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Caroline, for the intro. Thank you so much for joining us here in this session. We're going to talk about best practice in driving Treasury development. We're going to talk about technology. And before your eyes gloss over, because we're going to talk about technology, don't worry too much. We'll keep it practical, and we'll also have some real-life demos on artificial intelligence. We'll pick some scenarios that we think would be interesting to see. So stay tuned for that one. As Caroline already said, this session is interactive, so you can ask us questions. We will be happy to go into those questions, remarks, whatever it is, do send it to us. We'll be happy to go into it and react to it, obviously. That makes the content obviously richer, and we'll be happy to do so. I guess an introduction is due, though, before we continue. My name is Bart Perrin. I am a Senior Vice President at Sorala in charge of solution transformation, working on new cloud products and having lots of fun doing it. And with me today is Alexander Rieberg. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. A very good morning to the audience. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Alexander Rieberg. I'm joining today's session as a senior solution architect, and my practices are both payments as well as cash, liquidity, and treasury. And from a background point of view, I have 20 years of experience with these practices, and lately I've been working as manager in PwC in the treasury practice, as well as being global treasurer in the automotive industry. So again, very good morning, and thank you for joining. What do we want to achieve today? And we would like to guide you through a bit is what is our belief or practice view on making the treasury world more connected, and the spotlight areas that we see. And fortunately, it's something that we did not do up ourselves, but so this is in many Q&A sessions from large institutions, and apparently are spotlight areas for many organizations. What we like to, however, do and introduce you to is the way what we believe has got to do with the integration of applications, a coordinated, concentrated work, and using also business analysis and artificial intelligence. And for us, it's a key belief, and we've seen this throughout the industry, that Treasury has become a critical player for the organization. And why is that? Because the Treasury itself or finance organization does deal with financial data. And this financial data is something that is to a large extent still sitting siloed and with a lack of ownership within the organization. So we see it's there, but you know how to make the best out of the situation, and bringing the key stakeholders on the table. And that's why we also say it's not a two-dimensional view, it's a multidimensional view. You will see this later on, and why this challenge is a critical one, but will be a successful one if you take the rightful approaches. And coming to the core message is the larger you integrate your applications, the more you standardize your processes, and the faster you have access to data, the better is your analysis and the support you can give as treasury or finance organization to the business. So we would like to engage with you a bit on this story, on this way through the panel. And we would be delighted to hear from you what was your starting point to develop your treasury or finance organization. And again, as I said, we believe that these are key spotlights that needs to be looked at. And the multidimensionality we will show later on. But what was your critical point, starting point, in order to move ahead? So we would like to ask you to give us your personal view, and we will share this later on with the audience of what is the starting point, and maybe give some ideas or spark some ideas what can be done in this context. So please be so kind and support us in this poll. Thank you.
Right. So I guess the question is, we have 4 capabilities there, right? Is it around application integration, which is the biggest push with regards to the Treasury organization? Is it the business analytics, so getting insights into the data? Is it an aspect of real time? So do we understand better what is going on with regards to data? Is it a matter of timing? Does that bring the biggest development? Or are we talking about process centralization? Do tell us what, according to you. We've done this a few times. It had interesting results, actually. So I would be happy if there would be more
Indeed.
people going for it.
and just adding on to what you said, Bart, is I think there's no right or wrong, and depending on the size of not only also the size of the industry, but also the strategy that the business development strategy, including the IT strategy that your organization has, these can be critical business drivers in that aspect. And if not having one central ERP, that's basically one of the key concerns that could be considered as, or will be considered as, bottleneck when having or getting access or wanting to have access to data and information. And in that sense, how to exchange information to make them readable. So this access and the real-time view on information is something that we see is playing a more and more critical role in that sense.
Right. Well, this is, we can see it changing life here, right? As answers are coming in, which is, any polling person would tell you is not the right thing to do, right? But it's interesting to see how it moves. It does look like the process centralization is winning this this time, Alex. Yeah, which is probably the least of the technology related ones, right? Though I guess they all are in some way, and also technology never, of course, is a goal in itself.
No, it's not. It cannot be seen as a standalone. And from my point of view, it definitely shows some results that I have expected. And having worked as global treasurer, I can definitely say that you need to understand what you're doing. You need to document what you're doing, your processes. And when you have this baseline information, then you can start mapping this, from a more manual workload perspective to a more technology-driven perspective. So you can try to get rid of, operative things that are not relevant and is holding up people. So you can get rid of it and put this in a treasury system or in an ERP tool. So something that does not come unexpected from me, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we move on to the impact table, Alex?
Yeah, and I think we're touching on the most interesting part of today's panel. And from what I can say is, and maybe just picking you a bit up from where we are coming, and suddenly we have made up our minds to say, what is the how can the multidimensionality of such project developments or transformation projects could look like? And with all respect, this is not a full and clean table, but it gets many of the aspects already these days that could impact the talks and that could impact the progress. We believe that we wanted to spark the idea and the interested in those transformation processes, and we are more than happy to engage in calls and conversations after that panel on a one-on-one basis. But this is something how we believe multidimensionality of projects could look like, and looking at from a left to right and from top to the bottom is really invoice to cash projects have a point in the application integration. It could go into the ERP system, whilst then driving the payments business and cash management business. Just to name one example. Yeah. So and we hope and we believe that you find this as interesting as we do, and based on experience, we can already also say that, and even myself, I was kind of surprised that this, we could put this on one piece of paper, and I think it's a great start to get into those conversations with your business and within your organizations. So, but from your point of view, and being more on the technology side, give me. I would appreciate if you can give me your view on what you believe is and why is it imperative that Treasury IT infrastructure will have to move into focus and should be aligned with the IT development strategy of an organization going forward. So.
Yeah. I mean, two answers spring to mind for me. That is not good practice if you want to say something, I guess. But let me. I mean, just out of long time experience, because I've been working in treasury systems for 25 years as well. I mean, actually, what you see if you look at IT systems is that they are in many organizations equally siloed as the financial processes themselves. So you have an accounting system, obviously, you have a treasury system, probably you might have a separate collection system, you have a credit management system, you have invoice approvals, and of course, lots of spreadsheets. And those things are siloed, they're separate. And that may be okay for the collection system, maybe, but it's not okay for the treasury system, right? I mean, that is the one thing that needs to be the spider in the web. You need to have the information from all of them. And therefore, I mean, if you can, if you can, I would do treasury in the ERP system itself. If I know that is not a very popular standpoint, it may not be equally strong, it may not be equally good looking, but it has that great advantage that it has a lot of the information already in there and a lot of information that you can access directly, right? So a lot of the technology things and a lot of interfacing, that bad I word, is gone if you can do it. Now, of course, you can't always do it, right? I mean, if you have many ERP systems, if you have ERP systems that simply don't have that functionality, or where you can't have add-ons to the ERP system, like for example, what we do what we offer, then you should probably have no choice, and you have to look at systems that really know how to integrate deeply into the business processes of accounting and of the other system. So break those silos there. And that, if you allow me to ramble a little bit and move to a next point there. So try to do it in the ERP, but if you can't, if you won't, at least make sure that it gets integrated. Point one. Point two, there is so much information that we don't use. And I always wonder at that. And I get it. It's not easy to get information out, right? And a lot of treasurers, cash managers that I talk to, if we're saying let's go for cash forecasting, make the best out of the information that we have, they're saying, you know what, I'm not even going to try. It's too much detail. It never works. And then you retreat back to some level of statistical forecasting, which to me is a shame. There is a lot of information in there that's untapped. And if I have to take one example, I would take cash forecasting based on receivables, based on information that we incoming cash, especially in the B2B context, is very difficult to get, right? I mean, it very much depends on the business, but hard to do because you simply do not control when your customers pay you. And if you need to forecast when that cash comes in, this is obviously hard. So there is information in receivables, but people don't pay when they're due, right? Now, statistically, we can do some things with that, right? Try to go from due date to an expected payment date. And that will still not be exactly correct. So where is even more information? Typically in the collections department. If it's overdue, they will call and they will have the information. When will people expect to pay? In the collections department, they will also know. So, for example, if there is a promise to pay, that information should be integrated directly into your treasury system, right? So that integration, that information is there somewhere in your organization. You just don't know it. You don't take it. If there is a dispute somewhere, then you can also expect that there is not going to be an immediate payment, even if the invoice is overdue. Right? So again, that information should be there. Yes, Alex.
Yes, sorry for interrupting you, but no, I see Paul's questions coming in, and I'd like to jump onto one which is perfect. Does perfectly fit. We get the question: does this mean that Treasury should be the driver for change? And thank you for raising that point. And Bart, join me, please. I would like to start briefly. Is the business development? I wouldn't say necessarily that Treasury needs to drive this change, but it should be considered as critical business partner going forward. Because everything what you do at the end of a day depends on how much cash you have been sitting on your account and how much your cash position will look like tomorrow and in a couple of weeks' time. The same applies for, do I really make sure that my receivables are received and my payables are being paid? So with regards to the connectivity and the ERP integration and the access to data, I would say that Treasury is from its DNA point of view simply already in the position to be the owner of those processes going forward. So the point for me is, should Treasury drive the change? Definitely a yes. How do you see that part?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, however, not easy, right? I mean, are you
Definitely
in the
not.
driver's seat? Yes.
Yeah.
Are you in the driver's seat there? And you should be, is the answer, right? Because you have most to gain as Treasury from the integration of the different systems, which needs to be put forward in there. A department, let me take collections again, they might be perfectly happy with what they have, but they don't need to have the information from all the others, and we really need it in order to make it better. And I see two easy solutions and then a very difficult one. Easy solution one, ERP, but of course ERPs are, not, as I said before, not everyone has it, doesn't look so good, etc. But you can do a lot on it.
Yeah.
Second solution that I see is a vendor that covers a lot of these processes, and where you would hope that vendor has thought about the integration of those processes, right? So if you have Serala that has a collection system as well as a cash management system, then yeah, obviously we make sure that if there's a promise to pay, if we know that there's a dispute, then this will have an effect on the expectation with regards as to when the cash flow will come in, right? So that is an automatic, in a sense, integration. Third solution is a hard one, and that goes through a lot of integration. That is tough. Right? Obviously, as a treasurer, you don't want to go into the detail of a dispute, right? Obviously, you don't have the time for that even. So it has to come automatically, and you need to rely on the information that comes also in the large group so that everything comes together, right? So that is obviously something.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I suggest we move on. I see more questions coming in.
Exactly.
But we also need to cover a few other items, and so because we try to go a little bit, canvas it out a little bit, but I very much appreciate that there's questions coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to see that.
Yeah.
Would you like to move ahead in the interest of time?
I think we should have a look at
showcase
with the treasury deals. And the fact that Treasury deals with much more information and data than before, right? And so it needs to be received and digested simply faster. So, Alex, do you see a way in which this development would shift to 24/7 availability of information?
Okay. No, it's a very good question. So, the way of Treasury is working today is again also kind of, I would like to use the term siloed with regards to the business partners to some extent, but also, it's often happens in batch mode. So it's not really real time, but you press a button and something happens. And this is something that we will be going to see a shift in the next couple of years. And, there's two sides of how I would look at this situation and the development. And again, it has a treasury or technology impact, the way that an organization chooses to implement, and the integration, and maybe also answering one of the questions that I've seen coming in is, I think it does not necessarily need to in the end to rely on an integrated ERP system, but what is definitely needs to have is the integration over standard interfaces. And ERP is one of the core aspects, of course, or can be one of the core aspects. So the dealing with this IT development and the connectivity of an organization, provides, from my point of view, great insight how seriously organizations take these developments, and they should have rather started already a couple of years back. And we see many organizations being in that transformation mode and focusing on unsiloing data, if you know what I mean. So, and the external side is apparently also a very nice one. And I think that this is something that Treasury simply cannot ignore, because markets and regulators strive for a more real-time approach. And, it's simply the SIPA instant payments or any other form of instant payments. This is something that organizations have to deal on the middle and long-term view. And it's not only the point of making such payments information or such payment methods available. It also ties into the situation that, if you release a payment, or if you pay something, or if you receive an order, then you have to immediately release these goods that have apparently been purchased. And there we come again to an integrated network that needs to really closely cooperate together. And so this is also the business driving aspect if Treasury should be, taking the role here, and does not necessarily have to say that it needs to, but the access to data, the information about financial information, and dealing with it. This is something that every organization has an expert already, and from my opinion, they should be using it.
Yeah.
But what would you say? I'm looking at the remaining time. Would we like to? Should we move to our artificial intelligence showcase? What do you think?
I think so. We promised it. We should do it, right?
Definitely. Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah. I mean, AI, when we talk about technology, we have to talk about AI in today's world, right? So what I would like to do, I mean, how will it change our lives is the interesting question. And I think we are at the beginning of something there. And in the short term, it will help us, and then also in the long term, by the way, I'm not here for doomsday scenarios. It will help us to get information faster, to be helped quicker, to give more almost instinctive hints. I will show a few of those examples. In the longer run, it might actually take over a piece of what we're doing now, because in essence, artificial intelligence is good at replacing on a very high level anything that has rules. And a lot of what we do has rules, either implicit or explicitly. Can be simple things like assigning categories. It could also be language systems. Language systems also have implicit rules, and machine learning gets better and better at trying to understand what we're actually trying to say. All right, long enough talk. Let me just show you some of the examples that we're working on. And let me switch here my view. It doesn't always doesn't behave the way that you want if you need it, right? Yeah. But we are seeing my screen, I guess, right? Yeah. So we are looking here at one of our cloud solutions that includes, for example, payments and cash forecasting. And I actually wanted to get it into full screen view, but it somehow doesn't want to do that.
But maybe let me just step in, Bart, while you're looking for the right button. But what I'm seeing here that sparks an idea that I'm seeing is, treasurers in the future will more work on dashboards. The level of integration and the intelligence of how information is being gathered does treasurers and finance organization to have a totally different view on their information. And it's not only the way it's being looked at, but there's more interaction. If something happens during the day, it will raise an alert or something like that. So you have your benchmarks already defined, and you can focus on your business. And I think this is one of the things I see here. So you don't have to have variants and bookmarks. You have dashboards in the future.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the way that we design our systems is only through dashboards, basically. You don't want to go into menus. You don't want to do things. You would really like to go into this. What I wanted to show off, though, is first of all one view on artificial intelligence, which is Sarah. Sarah is a digital assistant that you can say hi to if you want to, obviously. But that's not what we want. We want to have that digital assistant assist us in a different way. So it is based on in a different way. It allows you to interact with systems in a different way, right? In a different user experience, as we techno people call this, which is therefore usable and useful in a number of situations. Not in everything. I'm not going to expect us to be using such an assistant in every situation and for everyone, but it can be very useful in cases. It can be faster to do things, and it can also be, for people that are not so much into the technology, that are not so much into this. It can be an easy way to integrate with their application. For example, you can ask her things like, what is my cash position? I could also speak, but I keep silent for a moment because at the same time she's also speaking in my ear, and that makes it difficult to interact with. So this kind of thing works on machine learning, understanding speech. Actually, it tries to really understand what you're saying, and then interpreting that, and then giving an answer back. Another thing that I wanted to show you, and I think that is also an interesting aspect of machine learning, and I would like to move, is and I will use a menu here for a moment to move to a cash position worksheet. So here we look at, therefore, a cash position worksheet. You can have multiple cash position worksheets. Not the point. I wanted to go into the AI part. So let me, for that, show you a AI-based forecasting. So AI-based forecasting is based on machine learning models. Machine learning models need to learn things. So over time, they learn from the data that they get. That is almost the definition, by the way, of machine learning, right? And this one is a very particularly interesting one because it allows us to identify trends. It allows us to identify automatically, actually identify also changes over time in addition to trends. So seasonalities, specific seasonalities that are yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly seasonalities that are extracted and then recombined together to provide a forecast for the future. And the little Sarah symbol that you see here indicates that we are not entirely sure, in a sense, right? It's machine learning is never entirely sure. I'm sorry to say. It does its best to interpret something out of a large range of data and comes out of something. And here we also explicitly say that the machine learning model is still under training. Yeah. One other aspect that I would like to show you.
And maybe I just skip in with a question, but is I think this is a fantastic example, not only how the future of the work of a treasury organization could look like, but you said already, you can focus on strategic things in your day-to-day work life. And on the other hand, and this is the point on the cash liquidity forecast or on the forecasting is, and again, tying into what we already said is, the more integrated you have your applications and the more real-time data is possible, the less time at the end of the day you could spend on those things. Not saying that it does fall off completely, but it's more like at the end of the day, more like a quality assurance aspect that you're going to perform, because these systems will have access to a data cube or data cubes, and they will deal with it in the way that the system is designed, with what you said, with these rules and with self-learning. So great example.
Yeah. One last example then, because we do need to look at the time, is another thing where machine learning tries to learn from the past. And anomalies in payments is one of the major needs and one of the major use cases actually of machine learning, right? So that is one of those things. We decided to give a notification to say that something is anomalous. We have not gone too deep on purpose. We've not gone too deep into saying, wow, watch out, this is fraud or there's something terrible happening, right? That doesn't make any sense. What we try to keep it low key, right? We say, you know what, that combination of who you pay and the amount that you pay to seems to be out of order. We can't do so much more. It's then up to you as a customer to say, okay, 1 second, this may indeed be something that is not what I expected or not what I wanted to. And then, for example, you can give feedback to the model, or that was a technology way to say it. In reality, what you want to do is to say, you know what, that is not an anomaly, it's fine. And by saying that, you provide that feedback, and next time, the chances of this machine learning algorithm saying, "Hey, there's something wrong," maybe is going to be changed. And of course, if you say remove the item, don't pay it right now, right? Then that is also a feedback that is interesting for the algorithm, right? I guess that is what I have time for. There's many machine learning things in there, as we can see. It will. Right now, we are focusing on those aspects where we think that we, going to make life easier, where we're going to add a dimension that for yourself will be very hard to do or to find, but we have not touched upon replacing the whole day of a treasurer or a cash manager at this point in time. But bit by bit, this technology is advancing, and we're do our best to be at the forefront of these things.
We still appreciate that to all the persons that have joined us on our mission and our session this morning. We really hope and believe you have found it interactive and inspiring as well. And I'd like to close with what we believe is one of the core aspects, conclusions to what we already said. And this is Treasury and its IT infrastructure are critical to the success of the organization, and it should receive the necessary attention. So it's something that needs to happen right now, if not yet done. There's no in some cases, there's still the way of keeping things manually. But what we said to the poll, standardize your processes and take them into the cloud. Integrating both Treasury and ERP systems simplify defining standards for the group, and this is also a key aspect for me, having worked as treasurer and in PwC. The more you have standards and the less systems you have, the more integrated everything works, the less risk you have. And an additional aspect of the standards for the group is you control it centrally, and you just give them out and you update them on regulations and things that happen. So there's a huge aspect of saving time and increasing the security. The more you integrate things, the greater is the chance that you get a single source of truth for all of your financial data. And I think this is, for me, it's also critical because when you have information and you don't have to justify them, you don't have to look at them. You don't have to verify them. You can use them immediately, and that is a good starting point to enter into or expand business intelligence solution that you will help you in your treasury life, but also other business partners to make rightful decisions. And yeah, that's how we come to an end today. We hope and we appreciate your time. Reach out to us if you feel you have more things to share, if you're interested in or joining, that we should be joining your transformation. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you very much.